Well met, Loremasters. Stay a while and listen. Last time we went over the character Ma, horse, which seems to have ruffled a few manes. I know, right? Who knew the brony fandom was so hot-blooded? Silliness aside, for now, there were a few things I got wrong in the last video that I wish to set straight. For is it not written, 过则无当改? When you make mistakes, do not fear to righten them. So, let's begin. First, it was pointed out to me that the reconstructed PIE word Marcos is highly hypothetical and likely never existed to begin with. My bad. Next, I've been giving Yan Zhongqing the business a few videos in a row about inventing the simplified characters. After some digging, I found a Chinese post explaining that since Yan's style is so popular, it's often the first style you learn when you begin learning Chinese longhand, there are simplified character versions made in an imitation of his style, so-called fake Yan characters. Now, in my defense, these things are often listed as Yan Zhongqing characters along other historical calligraphy styles, so it's really an easy mistake for brainlets like myself to make. But still, my bad. Sorry, Mr. Yan. Alright, that's the housekeeping out of the way, let's get on with today's episode, which is gonna be the most goated of the Zodiac Deer series. Get it? The sheep, also goat, also lamb, also ram, or merely yang in Mandarin, is the 8th animal in the Chinese Zodiac. And yes, I know sheep and goats aren't the same deer, but the Chinese don't really separate the goats from the sheep and use the same word for all caprines, or goat kind. On the rare occasion when you need to be clear, you can say shan yang for goat, mian yang for sheep, and ling yang for buck. But when push comes to shove, 9 times out of 10, you won't have to. In any case, enough of my bleating, let's ram head first into today's episode. As always, let's see what the 说文解字, the earliest Chinese character dictionary that we know of, has to say. Yang xiang ye. Goat, greatest of all time. Yes, I see. Okay, I'm yanking your chain here, but only a wee bit. Xiang means luck, blessing, good token, wealth, all that good stuff. Nowadays, xiang is written with the altar radical shi, but in oracle bone and bronze carvings, it's written the same as yang. This alone tells us how closely linked goat kind and good luck are in Chinese culture. While Mr. Xu Shen, the writer of 说文, only tells us that yang means xiang, the Qing Loremaster Mr. Duan Yucai adds that this is a rhyme gloss, and as we know by now, in the Chinese mind, words that sound the same were often seen as kin words. Indeed, yang and xiang still rhyme to this day. Mr. Duan also notes that yang shows up in many other characters with hashtag good vibes, such as shan, good, yi, righteous, Mei, fair, comely or winsome, and the now self-seen Yo, which means to guide someone towards goodness. But why were goat kind seen as lucky to begin with? Aside from the wordplay, goat kind were mainstream household livestock that gave wool, meat and milk, meaning the more of them you had at home, the more wealth you had. Thirdly, as in Abrahamic faiths, goat kind were often the go-to offering to gods and forefathers alike, an offering lamb in every meaning of the word. Over time, goats and sheep came to be seen as lucky in and of themselves. Although, like with rabbit's feet, the good luck never seems to touch the poor deer itself, now does it? 从拐向四足为之形. From guai, a pair of ram's horns, and showing the shape of 4 legs and a tail. Mr. Xu Shen says the character shows the full goat, with the bottom half representing the legs and tail. Let's see how well that holds up, shall we? The oldest shapes of the yang come to us from the Shang oracle bones. They look much like the Western mark for Aries, both show a sheep or goat's head seen from the front, with 2 great curling horns and a narrow snout. No legs though, sorry Mr. Xu. In these bone carvings, some have an extra line for the eyes, while others seem to have twin sets of horns. Some goats can grow 4 horns thanks to a twist in the HOXD1 gene, so maybe that's what we're seeing here. In either sake, the bronze forms from the later Shang times are steadier, more even and much more alike. By the time of the Zhou, the mark had become closer to today's shape. The sharp muzzle is turned into a flat stroke, and the lines grew more pointy. Some old-school forms lingered on, however, among which is my favorite seal script form of yang. Just look at those wonderful curved horns. That's craftsmanship, that is. There are a couple of odd ones too, like this one that looks like an upside-down letter A. No
sir, I don't like it.
On the true bamboo slips of the warring states, the goat's horn are written like two ren, man, side by side, sometimes even touching the top line like twin wedges. In the Qin bamboo slips, the mark became even more streamlined with the horns getting flattened out, resulting in a third breathwise stroke. But what really gets my goat is how they trim down those stout ram's horns into those stubby little nubs.
Look how they mess with my boy.
Sadly, the scribes under House Han took the Qin design and ran with it, as we can see on the Ma Wangdui silk scrolls. Which brings us to the normal script. And there really isn't that much happening in the normal hand. It's pretty much the same as the form we see today. Alright, I'll stop gushing on about the characters already. Let's get to the word lore. The STEDT traces yang to the Proto-Sino-Tibetan word gyang, meaning goat or sheep. As far as I understand it, the initial G there is a prefix that marks names of beasts. The STEDT also claims that this word is akin to the Tibetan word for the highland shaggy ox, the yak, but as far as I know, this is still a moot point. Zhengzhang Shangfang in 2003 gives lang. Axel Schussler in his book gives both yang and lang, while Baxter and Sagat put forth gang, based on the last name Jiang, Old Chinese Kang, and the folk name Qiang, Old Chinese Kang. Whatever the Old Chinese reading was, it became yang in Middle Chinese and yang in Modern Mandarin. The readings in other Chinese languages aren't too far removed from the Middle Chinese form either. Aside from Mandarin yang, we have Zheng in Canto and Yong in Hakka. In Southern Min, however, the final ng became a final n, or went away altogether. Outside of Chinese, yang was borrowed into Japanese as yo, because Japanese cannot have final ng, into Korean as yang, and into Vietnamese, where it is read as zuong in the north and yong in the south. The Vietnamese spelling makes sense when you learn that the guy who invented the Vietnamese alphabet based it in part on French. Sacré bleu! And that's another Zodiac deer down. The next one will be starring the one, the only, Ho Monkey. And as always, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below for the hungry algorithm, and join the Chinese Merchant Guild by supporting me on Patreon like these lovely people already have. You're all truly wonderful. Until next time, Loremasters.